Okay, so I think that we are recording. So
All
hi,
right.
Nicole
Hello.
here, and
Hello. How are
we
you?
good. How are you? So
I'm
we
well, thank you.
we are friends. We
We
met a
are.
couple of years ago, and just to preface it by saying you're one of the dearest people to me, and I feel like we are sisters, um,
Virgo
and
sisters.
Virgo sisters, healing sisters, and wellness. But we met early on when we started living close to one another, and then we met through an interaction with a kitty. You're a very
Yes.
sweet girl.
Yes, the interaction with the kitty. I have been a lifelong cat hater, and if something trickled into my heart like a Grinch, I'm wearing that color right now, the Grinch color. Something trickled into my Grinch heart, and I just like, well, I'll get this cat spaded, and then I'll release her back in the wild. And she took us on a wild goose chase because she got out loose the night before she was going to get spaded. And through the urgings of you and your daughter, they were like, "No, you should keep this cat. This is your cat." And I'm like, No, no." And but 2 years later, I just celebrated her little birthday. She's definitely that's my little soul baby. I can't imagine life without her. I don't want to think about life without her. I love her so much. That's my heart. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's how we joined together. So she's my honorary kitty auntie. So
yeah,
we are always going to join together.
that's right. That's right. Sweet little
Yeah,
pearls, we
yeah,
call it.
absolutely.
Well, in addition to being a Virgo and a
Yes,
cat lover, which we both share in common,
yes,
um,
yes,
some of the other things that we've had in common and where our friendship and sort of business relationship has grown is through health and wellness, and
yes,
specifically
absolutely.
entering into perimenopause, menopause. And so, as a chiropractor and functional health practitioner, you see all the things.
I
And
do. I
I mean,
do.
just as far as how you've helped me, you've got me into acupuncture. So I've
Yes,
been doing
yes.
chiropractic care and then acupuncture, which has been a lifesaver for us here with the community acupuncture, where we all sit
Yes,
together at 12 and we receive the treatments. And so that's magical. But
yes.
the shoulder, frozen shoulder, I didn't know that was a thing because I had actually
Hmm.
injured my arm with a backpack,
Hmm.
which then led into a pinched nerve and frozen shoulder. And now I'm experiencing, not sweating, but
Hmm.
heat, where
Yes,
the
the
body
heat
actually
responses.
brings in the heat.
Yes,
Um, Restlessness at night with
yes,
sleeping, waking,
yes,
warm. And
yes.
so I thought, let's let our first conversation together be just about being a woman here now,
At this
moving through
stage.
these symptoms and experiences. And so, you, as a beautiful healer, one of my favorite people, um,
Oh, yeah, well, thank you. I really do appreciate it. And number one, perimenopause, if I must say, is a whole nother animal than just historically has ever been. I know everyone feels, especially when you're in it, you're like, oh wow, this is something crazy, it's something else. But I probably can find some more research about it, but I really do feel that women these days have a different launch of severity of perimenopausal symptoms that were never from before. When we think of our mothers, we may have thought about like, oh, they complained of hot flashes and other things. And, during those times, sometimes women just weren't have a lot of commentary about symptoms as they do
mhm,
now.
mhm,
So that may be one thing, but I really do believe that with the inundation of what we call endocrine disruptors, and endocrine disruptors can come in many forms. They can come in our environment, in from manufacturing sites, or it can be very personal with our brands of body products and hair care products, and even makeup and fragrances. And then, of course, some of the things that we use for our feminine hygiene, coming into such an intimate area that we're allowing these type of products, these exogenous endocrine disruptors, to embed themselves because our bodies have a wonderful way of preserving things that can't quite figure it out. It'll put it in a fat molecule in a second. It's just like I can't figure this out. I'll put it in a fat molecule or like stick it to the liver. The liver will start to help to detoxify it. So, with that all being said, these symptoms that a lot of my patients have with perimenopause are pretty severe. I have women who are literally at their wits' end with fatigue, brain fog, and
Mm.
then new pains that they've never had before. Or with some women, they have had autoimmunity or viral loads that they know are there, but now that they're in perimenopause, it's just like, I've dealt with this for a long time and I've kept it under the wraps. What's going on now that I'm in my 40s, it's now gone haywire and I can't get this, this fire under tow. So with perimenopause, it does bring an onslaught of symptoms. You just mentioned about, the hot flashes and the joint pain, and as well as the shoulder.
Yeah.
One thing that can happen during perimenopause is that you're having a shift in hormones. So the same way that you had maybe, you not maybe, well, when you were in your adolescence phase, you had a shift in hormones, which brought about puberty. So you had, the budding of your chest, you had new hair follicles growing, and then of course your menses began. And so we have to have that same grace and honor how we had in that transition, a phase of girlhood into adolescence, where our bodies are biologically are, of a mature age, coming more towards a maturation of childbearing age. For some reason during this phase, women are just like, well, if you're either adolescent, childbearing, and then once you're at this stage, it's just you're kind of off the pasture. You don't really, you don't get a lot of regard and resources and information or support for this stage. But I really do feel that it's just as important to have some type of, resources support, but also grace, because you wouldn't have been so hard on yourself when you were at that age. We were like, oh, you have your period. Oh my gosh, my dear. You're like, this is new for you. Let's teach you how to use this and use these kind of products and things like that. So now that we're at this stage, there is a new game that we have to figure out. So there's new ways that we have to archetype our lifestyle. Meaning, say for instance, you were one of those, I'm an orange theory person. I like to do this 5 days a week. I strength train. I do this. I'm at this stage of life, it's better to put in some more balance. I know
Mm.
that you are very much adept and talented in yoga. Doing things such as this will help to balance out. But to circumvent back to you, some of the things that you were experiencing with the frozen shoulder.
Yeah.
One of the things that estrogen does is very autoprotective. And sometimes with women, they can develop these things such as frozen shoulder in absence of the levels of estrogens that naturally will go down.
Hmm.
It's natural, but for some reason, what we're having here is with these endocrine disruptors can cause a challenge for our bodies to be able to metabolize other hormones, as well as in some women, challenges with having their estrogen levels just go way too low, just way too low. And that can bring about a barrage of symptoms of joint pain, some vaginal atrophy, some muscular atrophy and loss, and of course, some loss of lubricant and things like that can happen. And then another thing, of course, it can happen is once again that autoimmunity that I brought up from before.
Hmm.
Estrogens as a whole have a way to keep things kind of under wraps. So say for instance you had like viruses or some other things going on. You've had it for a while. You're dealing with it, and then estrogen is starting to degrade and come down and come away, and then it's just like it brings about just like, oh man, I can come to rising to the party now. And
Hmm.
these symptoms that some patients are having, they're like, man, not only is it bad, but it's worse than it was from before. Those are some of the things that's going on. But perimenopause, I promise you, it really is a challenge because some women have so many added layers. They're on what we call it's almost the book, what do they call it? It's like the bookend. It's like you're caretaking for your
Yeah.
children,
Yeah.
your wife, your
Yeah.
woman, and then you're caretaking for your elders, for your parents now.
Right.
So those can add some added layers of stress too. So having your tribe is really important, so to speak, for this stage of life. but also making sure that you are devising a different lifestyle to befit where you are and recognizing where you are instead of who you used to be. Because
Mhm.
biologically, you're no longer that person. You're literally no longer that person.
No.
And so yeah, so sometimes and it's humbling. It's very humbling because, I
Yeah.
look at pictures of myself and just like, gee, I miss her.
But
I
I
miss
look in the
her.
room like, what is this? What is this?
Yes,
What's going
yes,
on?
yes. It's trippy sometimes because you're looking at yourself and just like, who are you? It's just like I don't know who you are. It's just like literally you wake in the morning, or it's just I don't know. For me, I don't know how this was for you. It literally is like it was almost like I woke up and just like, who are you? And
Yeah.
it's just like she was just like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm perimenopause. I'm just like, oh God, who sent you? I'm like, is it that time? I'm like, I thought I had a couple more years on the clock. And she's just like, no, it's that
Yeah.
time. It's perimenopause time. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay. It can be alarming. It can strike, not that, but there is an ego strike sometimes for some individuals. I'll be the first to admit that it was for me. So, learning to love myself in a different way, or a new way, I should say, a new way, a new layer comes with that too. But yes, I just want to hopefully drive home that there are different ways to treat yourself, different ways that you can start to bridge in your nutrition, because nutrition is
Mm.
really important too. So let's talk about that. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, because I think one of my problems, like hair loss, all
oh
all the
yeah,
things, that's been
yeah,
rough, brutal.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so I think part of my key was protein. I had no idea. But I mean, I think intuitively for the last few years, I've been like, oh, I'm kind of hungry. I feel like I need protein, but I never really cared about protein. I would eat it or I wouldn't. It would be fine. But then why is it we now need more protein
yeah,
for all
yeah.
the things?
For all the things. And so one part of the reason that protein becomes such a major great player is that as we're aging, we have, degradation of different things. And one of those things is tissue, muscular skeletal tissue.
Hmm.
So that degradation of tissue can be propagated if you are not having adequate levels of protein. So in a way, and I know it sounds a little disheartening, it's almost like you're coming a little bit behind the wheel. So it's just like you're not only trying to maintain, you're trying to build a little bit more so that you do not have atrophy of muscles. Because what can happen with atrophy of muscles, unexplained trips, like, oh wow, I'm tripping and falling, coordination issues,
Hmm.
simple things, opening of jars. Let's talk about that.
Yes.
Or squatting. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, seriously. Or, even squatting down, you have to squat to use a restroom and things like
Right.
that.
Right.
We forget about how the importance of these large grade muscle groups are for things such as this. So with the natural degradation that happens with muscle loss, it's almost like we have to do a little bit more to kind of like keep things even keel. So if we're having degradation of muscles, and then we just want to boost a little bit more protein in there, so it
Hmm.
kind of like even kills it down, so it's not so much. So say for instance, someone who doesn't eat that much protein, and they're like, okay, well, I have an opportunity to do more degradation of
Okay.
musculature. There's other components to it too, other than just protein. Another thing is that our fuel sources kind of change for some people. And I don't want to make these kind of large
Sure.
statements as if
No.
this is for everyone, because I definitely have patients where what I'm saying does not work for them, which is the beauty of functional medicine, because it allows for a personalized care plan for you. But for a lot of people, for a lot of women, I should say, is that this eating, consuming more protein allows to reduce down the degradation, but also for how your body metabolizes, because there
Mm.
is a lot of women who have challenges like with unexplained weight gain. They're like, I was this 2 years ago, and now what's going on? I'm gaining like 10 to 15 pounds a year, like, and I can't get it off, and it's just not coming off.
Hmm.
So this is another way that, adding more protein and making sure those macronutrients are sufficient. There's different ways, there's different calculators online that you can measure your protein based upon your height and your weight and your age. And I would encourage people to just look at those and kind of give that as a gauge. to see how much protein that they're actually getting in.
Mhm.
Not that you have to, tabulate everything like, oh my gosh, let me measure this and let me weigh this. Not so much
Well,
that.
that adds in an extra layer of stress when you're doing it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So when you're doing it that way, so if you're looking at it in this way of just like, okay, let me just keep measuring things and let me just, you don't want to become a stress burden to you,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But so to start to get an idea. So say for instance, like, oh, I measured it these couple days and this is what my plate looked like, or this is what
Mhm.
I ate. And that way you can use it as your guidepost for
Mhm.
your protein and macronutrients. And then making sure, because we don't vilify anything, carbohydrates are
Right.
important, fat is important, making sure that those are in a healthy balance as well. But maybe leaning towards those complex carbs and those kind of grains and things like that as well.
That's critical. Nutrition. I think it's forgotten a lot when we're trying to do all the other things. We're so busy. We're, like you said, we're caring for one end of a spectrum, a child, a parent, both. So
Hmm.
I think we tend to neglect our nourishment when, in
Yes.
fact, it should be critical because all of these new symptoms. I mean, I forever consider myself 27. Now that I am
Nice.
51, it's not really practical. I mean, yes, I can
Yeah.
imagine I am, but when I look in the mirror and when I feel my shoulder and when I wake up at 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. and I can't sleep because I'm just hot,
Yeah.
it is, it is, game has changed. So
Yes.
I think conversations like these, where we can openly discuss and share resources and have ways to support one another and to say, "Oh yeah, I am
Yes.
experiencing that," and
Yes.
just to have the resources and options. And like you said, we're not saying this is a blanket for everybody, but these are, in general, symptoms that we will at some point, if we're lucky enough,
Yeah.
to experience. And
Yes.
so, what can we do about it? And how can we
Yes.
support one another?
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's definitely ways we can do this gracefully and beautifully. We're not some sector of in this age group where we're just off to pasture, so to speak, no longer viable. It's not that. It's not that. There's ways that we can do this with beauty, a magnitude of grace and celebration of womanhood as well, because it should be a celebration. It's just like, wow, we made it to the finish line. For women who had children, like, wow, I've done this. Like, I created a child. I've done this. I've made these endeavors. I've given in these kind of ways. This is a celebration. Like I've earned this, and the wisdom and the maturity and the confidence, hopefully, that you can scope. That's very unique in this stage that you can't get in your 20s. And that's the one thing I do love about this. I'm like, you can't get this in your 20s. It's just really,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, you're right.
yeah.
And just hearing you speak, like we think when we think of the adolescent girl and her blooming and her beauty, and I look at these children like, oh, they're so beautiful and they have the world available to them, but they also have our resources. So I mean, even my daughter, I'm explaining things and telling her and showing her, and but there's this blooming of the young girl, but
Yes.
so you think of the child, the maiden, the mother, but
Mhm.
then what do we get? The crone, and
Yes.
I mean, I think of a crow or wisdom, but as you were speaking just then, I thought, well, it's like a second blossoming, and
Yes.
so why don't we phrase it like you said, beautifully and gracefully, like we do for the little kids?
You literally took the words out of my mouth. Okay, so just as a sidebar, okay, so for my birthday, I was going fragrance collecting crazy. I don't know what's going on with my nose. I've never bought fragrances before in my entire life. I am obsessed.
For
It
all
is an
the beauty
exhibit.
things you buy, you didn't buy fragrances.
I never bought fragrances. I was never a fragrance girly. And then I don't know what's going on with something inside of me where I'm fiending for just different scents. I'm like, I'm almost animalistic. I'm just like sniffing everything. Like, what does that smell like? What does it smell like? But the funny thing is you just mentioned, it's just like, I know. I'm like, I'm not at the crone stage. I'm not, I'll give reference to that stage when it's come. I'm like, that's not me. I'm a
Right.
dark rose. And if you think
Ooh,
about the blooming of how a rose will go and how it will go into, the unfurling, and so to speak. And then you get to the darkening. It's still there. There's the freshness of the buds are in the
yes.
center, but and
Yes.
the round of it, it's a darkening of it, and it's very beautiful, and it's very just magnetic, and it's just it's a little intimidating some ways. If you look at it like a if you were to look at a dozen dark roses, it's just like you
Yeah.
don't throw them away. They're
Yeah.
beautiful. So I literally had that inscripted in one of my bottles of my fragrance. I put on there your
Whoa.
dark rose, dark rose.
Whoa. And
Yeah.
almost the scent is almost more hearty,
Yes.
meaty, magical,
Yes.
musky.
Yes.
That
Yes.
if you can imagine that scent of that,
Yeah.
the bloom in its younger stage where it's still formed as a bud, but then as it opens, the scent is even more powerful.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's I'm just like, nope, that's how I feel. We're in our dark rose stage. Yeah. We're
That
not
is so
quite
good.
yet. Dark rose. Yeah, dark rose.
That is awesome. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that as a
Yeah.
visual and just as a reminder.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. So I hope some of the takeaways for some of your audience members is that there is beauty in this stage and that they will become more curious about their health as opposed to have a layer of apprehension and fear. And another thing is that they are not alone. Like every time, I promise you, most of my patients always feel like they're alone in what they're
Mhm.
experiencing. Not alone. A lot of people are talking, experiencing it, but they may not be talking about it as much unless they have, intimate friend groups like we do.
Yeah,
Um, but you're not alone. There are ways to meander through this in a way that's beneficial and complementary to your health, but at the same time, it still celebrates you for who you are at this stage. And I think that's amazing.
I love it. I love it. That
Yeah.
sounds like the perfect way to end.
Yeah. Okay.
Dark, beautiful, deep, magical, mystical rose as a
Yes.
visual. And
Yes.
I thank you.
I thank you too. Thank you
I
so much
miss you.
for. I miss you too, friend. I miss you too. Kitty misses you and
I
things. Yes,
know.
so she's just little. She was her little nose was down here just a second ago.
Cutie.
But I hopefully maybe one day you'll come to visit me up here, or
Yes.
maybe my travels will bring me back down to Florida. So
Yes.
yes, so absolutely. But
Wonderful.
hugs to you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me today. I
I love
appreciate
you. We'll do it
it. I
again.
love
I
you
think this
too.
has been beautiful.
Okay,
Thank
my
you.
pleasure. Yeah,
I
pleasure. When the next
appreciate
time
you.
aligns, we'll do it again. We'll do it
Yes.
again. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, honey.
See
All
you
right.
soon.
Same to you. Until next
Bye.
time. All right.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.